Good morning, everyone. This is Sherry from Sharecroppers, and I'm here today with a new free online class. This one is the Plentiful Plants card class. So we'll be creating 3 cards today using the Plentiful Plants Bundle. And I also brought in the Bloom Where You're Planted Designer Series paper that is also from that suite. Now, these are all from the annual catalog. So if you have these, it will be easy for you to create along with me today. This is where it is in the annual catalog. You can see that there's the whole suite. And we're just using a few of those pieces today. Now it's right at 11 and I'm going to give it just a minute for people to jump on, and I'm also going to load it up on my computer so that I can see your comments a little bit easier. But we'll have everybody jump on and hopefully the connection will be okay today. We are having a snowstorm. It's a small snowstorm here in Maine today, but the connection hopefully will be strong enough that we can stay together the entire class. Okay, so now I can see your comments as they pop up on my computer, which is a little bit easier than trying to watch the comments while I'm filming. So we will go ahead and get started with our class. So we're starting with 3 cards today. All 3 of them are just a basic A2 card base. So that means that they are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 when they're finished. And that means that they will fit into our regular medium envelopes. Now, one of these is a tent fold card, and that's what I gave the dimensions for with your cutting dimensions, but you could do it with a side fold card if you prefer. We're just embellishing the front on this one. The other 2 are also tent fold cards, but they have a horizontal orientation. So just basic note cards that will be great to add to your stash. Remember that when you jump on here, give me a little hello, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and see the video, because that's the only way that I know if there are technical difficulties. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and you can see the video. I can see the video on my computer as well, but I can't hear the sound on there. So that's the only way I know if there's any kind of issue. So these all use the Plentiful Plants stamp set. If you don't have that stamp set or bundle already, this is the one from the annual catalog, you can substitute any stamp set that has a plant theme and get really similar cards, especially if you have one that has plant pots. Now, please know that you don't have to do these exactly the way I've done them. This would be a really cute design if you had a basket of flowers or any kind of plant pot or anything like that. I know that we had a stamp set a couple of years ago that had hanging plants, so you could use that. Substitute what you have. All right, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Oh, good, I can see your comments now. Good, Jane, good, Glenda. Thank you so much. We are going to start with card number 1. Oh, and before I go any further, I have a little list here of things that I want to remember to tell you. So before we get started, okay, I told you that the Plentiful Plants stamp set and the Designer Series paper are both on the low inventory list. Kathy, am I on Stampin' with Sharecroppers? Well, it's not the public page though. This is the free online class group. So that's where we are. So this is not broadcast on the public page. We do the classes just in this private group, but you can invite anyone to join in. I'm just not sure that I will be able to add them during the class, but it will be available as a replay though. Okay. Let's see. I can watch for notifications though, Kathy, if you're trying to invite somebody. Oh, I see. Actually, I see that. I see that. I'm going to approve that right now. So you should be all set. Okay. That way you can watch on both devices. Okay. So you were logged in under Jeff. That's why I couldn't see you, Kathy. So now you should be able to get on with that device. Okay? All right, so the things that I need to remember to tell you, low inventory for the stamp set and the designer series paper. And this is our first class of the new year. And so we have a new mini catalog. My embellishments are from the new mini catalog, and I have a special going with those. And it's also Celebration. So lots of new things happening since the last time we stamped together. So the first thing that I want to make sure that I tell you is I'm going to be offering something new with the online card classes. First of all, they are always going to be free online here. I love this model. We're always going to have these free online card classes where we create 3 cards together. I think this model is working really well. So I don't want to change that at all. However, I have had people ask if they can buy just the card kits. And I started by offering a full card class, which was similar to the ones that I offer here in the studio or my other to-go classes. And I got some feedback on that, and I want to tweak that a little bit for the new year. So starting with this class, I will have every class available with these 3 card kits as a free gift with purchase. So it's not a separate class that you have to buy. That was one of the things that I heard was that, well, I'm already buying other things, or I already have these things. I want the simple card kits to do. That way I don't have to think about the cutting and things like that. So what I'm doing is I'm offering the 3 card kits. You can see that they're all packaged up. I already have 10 ready to go. So this is an example of how you would receive these as your free gift. So the 3 cards, everything is in here, including the embellishments for you. The only thing not included are the stamps and the inks, obviously. So you would still need to have your own stamps and inks. But I'm going to have a host code, and I'll have a link here in this group. If you place an order through my online store of $35 or more, using that host code, that will let me know that you want this class free, which means you'll get a PDF which has all the cutting dimensions and the directions and the pictures. And that will be your free gift with an order of $35 or more. If you bump your order up to $50, though, I'm going to send you my monthly free gift, which is an entire package of the classic matte dots. Those are a new item in our mini catalog, and I'm using them in a lot of my classes this month. So if you want to bump your order up a little bit, you'll get a free package of those. I think those are a $7.50 or $8 package of embellishments. Plus, because it's Celebration, Stampin' Up! Also gives you a free gift when you spend $50 or more. So you get a free Celebration choice. So I will post that host code here in this event, and I will pin it to the top so that way you can find it easily after the replay. So if you want to get these 3 exactly the same way that I've done them in the mail, use that host code to place an order of $35 or more. All right, now we'll get started. That was my entire list. I always forget to tell you things, so had my list ready. The first one that we're going to create today is this one with the hanging plant. I really like that little macrame hanger. And there's no stamping on the hanger. That's just a die cut from the, I think it's called Perfect Plants. Let me just take a peek. Yes, they're called the Perfect Plants dies, and they are part of this collection, part of this suite. When you buy the stamp set and the dies together, they're available as a bundle for 10% off. So this is a really cute one in there. Let's get started. So I'm actually using one of the kits that I created. So we'll go ahead and we'll take all of our materials out of that. The only thing that I did prep ahead of time was the hanger. And the reason I did that was because I had a few of those cut while I was playing and creating. So I just tucked one of those. Yours will not be die cut for you. You will need to die cut all of those pieces yourself, all of those elements. but I do give you the cardstock to do those. So I'm going to set that out of the way, and the first thing that I'm going to take it's a scrap of cinnamon cider and a scrap of garden green, and this piece right here is our small piece for our sentiment. I gave you the measurements for the one that will fit thank you, but if you're using a different stamp set, you will have to make your sentiment strip a little bit different size. So that's only if you're using the thank you. All right. 2 colors of ink that we're using on this card. They're from the designer series paper. So we're using garden green and cinnamon cider. The first thing that I'm going to stamp is the plant pot. Now I'm stamping it on cinnamon cider with cinnamon cider ink. So it's going to be a tone on tone, and I'm using that same technique when we do our plants as well. So you get a really light tone on tone there. And I just want to grab an example that I made. I cut one from designer series paper and I stamped one with cinnamon cider on basic white. So let me grab those samples. So that way you can see the difference. Any of these would work. But you can see this is the one that's cut from the designer series paper using the die. This is cinnamon cider on basic white. And this is cinnamon cider on cinnamon cider. So I'm using this one today for today's class. Now that I've stamped it, I'll set it aside and we'll pull in our green. Now this is very thick. This is a very full, lush plant. This one does not live at my house. But I'm going to actually make 2 of these and layer them in there. So I'm using this kind of vine-looking plant, and I'm going to do that twice with garden green on a scrap of garden green. This is one of those stamps where the dies come in really, really handy because you can do so much more with those dies. There's no way that I would have been able to hand cut one of those macrame hangers. You could fussy cut the plants if you wanted to. It would be a bit time consuming, but there's absolutely no way I could cut that cute hanger without the dies. While I have my green open, we'll go ahead and do our sentiment as well. So I'm pulling in the large thank you stamp set. I really like the font on this. So we'll pull that in and do our sentiment as well. And then we'll die cut our plant pot and our plants. Okay, so now I'm actually going to die cut these over on the side so that my whole table doesn't shake, but I'm using the die for the plant pot and the vine plant. And those dies look like this. So I'm just going to die cut that off the camera and pull them back over, and that will give you a chance to also finish your stamping and your die cutting. And now we'll also pull in our macrame hanger. I'm going to set my sentiment aside and I'm just going to start assembling my hanger. So this plant pot is going to fit right behind our macrame hanger. When you adhere this on here, don't worry about the top part poking out the sides because that's going to be covered up. If you want to be exact or trim it off, you can do that as well. But what I noticed is when I put my vines in, you're not going to notice if you see any of it on the outside. I just want to make sure that the bottom part is covered. So I'll pull in a little bit of liquid glue and we'll use just a couple tiny drops to adhere that to our plant pot. I'm actually going to put my little dots right here where the hanger is, I guess, tied together. I'm not sure how you would describe that. And it looks like I haven't used this one today, so gotta get the glue flowing there. Also looks like this one might be running out a little bit. I might have to grab another one from my bin. Oh yes, I can hear that. Let me grab another one. We'll open a new bottle. I have been creating cards like crazy lately for my own personal stash. I have been going through so much adhesive and so many card bases. It's crazy. But I like having that stockpile. It seems like I never had the card that I needed, which is kind of ironic for a card maker. But it just was not good planning on my part. So now I'm going to just adhere it with those 3 little dots to the front of my plant pot. Good morning, Glenda. Good morning, Gail. Good morning, Diane. You got your snow day. I was dancing for you. I'm glad you got your snow day. So that's just going to adhere onto that like so. And now all of these vines, these are so much fun to use with this stamp set. So all of these little pieces here, these can kind of go around our macrame hanger here. So you can tuck those in however you want. I'm trying to remember how I got this one to curve around there. I almost think that I just kind of fit it in like so. All of those little curves can kind of hug around the hanger. Okay, there we go. Now, there's a gap here, but remember, I'm going to be putting another one in as well. And I actually did not adhere these until I got them both tucked in and arranged the way I wanted them. So it looks like I did something like that. And so you get that really lush, full look there on your plant. Again, not a plant that lives at my house. Now, the way that I'm going to adhere these all in place is I'm just going to flip it over and put some dimensionals on the back because I am going to adhere it to my card front with dimensionals, and that way I don't have to use double adhesive. So a few strategically placed dimensionals on the back is good. It is a fun set, isn't it, Gail? And I'm not sure if you were watching at the beginning, but the stamp set and the designer series paper is on low inventory right now. So if it's something that you want to get, even though it's in the annual catalog, I probably wouldn't wait. I would get it during celebration. And I'm only saying that because I don't know if it's going to carry over. So who knows, maybe if it's on low inventory, it's not going to carry over. I really don't know the answer to that. But if it's something that you want, I wouldn't wait. Okay. All right. So there we have our plant all assembled. We will add our bow after, but that's going to be at the very end. So now that we have our plant stamped and assembled, we'll go ahead and set that aside and we'll start building our card base. This is a really simple layout. I'm starting with a garden green card base. Really, you can use whatever color matches your plants or coordinates with your plants. Now I'm also pulling in 2 cinnamon cider mats. These measure 5 by 3 3/4, and you'll need 2 of those. One of them is for the outside, so we'll be adhering our designer series paper to the front. Me too, Kathy, the only plants I can keep alive too. Okay, so this one is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Now you're also going to need a piece of basic white to go on the inside of your card that has the same measurement. So this is going to be 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. But don't adhere this down yet. We're going to stamp on it first. We'll set that aside. And because we're stamping off the edge of that one, we don't want to adhere that to the mat yet. So we'll do the front of our card first. This is going to have a piece of basic white adhered to the front of it as well, okay? So this piece is 2 1/2 by 3 1/2. And there's not really a measurement of where to put it on here. You just want to leave a little bit of brick to the right. So we'll just glue that down so it's a little bit off center. I do like to use my grid paper though to help me get it straight. So I'll probably put it in about a 1/2 inch from the right side and use my grid paper to make sure that I get that lined up perfectly. And then it will just be matted on our cinnamon cider. Make sure you give me a little hello. If you are new to our group, let me know where you're from. Good morning, Lana. Hi, Deb. And now this will also go flat on our card front. So you can see it's really linear, lots of straight lines, lots of rectangular shapes, and we're going to break that up with that plant. I love combining those really linear elements with something that breaks it up, like this overflowing plant pot. So I'm going to put this on next, and I'm going to put this on with the dimensionals, and I'm going to add a mini dimensional behind the hanger. Now we're going to cover up where you can see through the hole, so don't worry that that shows. But a mini dimensional will fit perfectly behind there for what we need. So see how that fits right there? And now we'll go ahead and take those backs off and stick it right down to our card front. Good morning, Tracy. And I'll put it so that the hanger comes right to the top. So that way it looks like a window. And remember, it's sticky right in the middle there. So we are going to take some linen thread. I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are each 10 inches long. So your kits, if you decide to get the kit, has a 20-inch piece of linen thread in it. So I'm just cutting that in half to make 2 10-inch pieces. And I'll tie a bow. This will be a big loopy bow. And it's a double bow. And when you have a double bow, one of the things that I like to do is pull one of these tails so that one of your loops is slightly smaller than the other one. And that way you can see both of the loops a little bit more clearly, and it makes for a fuller looking bow to do that. And I like to do that with linen thread sometimes. And so we'll adhere this to the top by just pressing that knot right onto that exposed Stampin' Dimensional. And I found that that does stick it down pretty securely, but if you feel like you need a glue dot there, you can absolutely put a glue dot under the knot instead. And then we'll trim our tails a bit. And you can manipulate that however you want, but it will lay down a bit flatter once you put it in even just one of your clear envelopes. If you just keep it there for a little bit, it will flatten down a little bit there for you. Okay, so we're ready to add our sentiment. Remember, we stamped that on our strip of basic white. So whatever you have for a sentiment, if you're using a different sentiment, what you're going to do to find your mat is you'll measure the rectangle that you stamped your sentiment on, and then add 1/8 of an inch to each measurement. So this measures 2.5, which means 2 4/8. So to add 1/8, it would be 2 5/8. So my mat is 2 5/8. Now this is 3/4 of an inch, which is actually 6/8. So to add 1/8, that would be 7/8. So that's how I make my mats. I like to have a really narrow mat, so I add 1/8 of an inch to each dimension, and that's going to be the perfect size. And you might not even want a mat on there. I just liked having that. It just makes it pop, that little extra bit of color. Now this will go on the front of our card with dimensionals as well. And finally, we're going to add those little matte dots. Again, these are from the Spring Mini Catalog. These are included with your card kits, but if you place an order of $50 or more, you get them free from me. And if you use the host code, you would also get these card kits for free. So I had mine with my kit here. Let's see, my 3 little dots have disappeared here on my work surface. Well, I bet that never happens to you, does it? Gosh, they were right here. Let me grab my package. As soon as I take these out of the package, I'll find my little strip. But this, well, you can see the way they come. I've used all the black ones already, but they come with white, vanilla, basic gray, and basic black. So you get all kinds of basics there. And I'm just going to add a larger one and a smaller one down here, keeping with my rule of 3s that I always use. So there are 2 sizes in the matte dots. There's larger ones and smaller ones. And you get twice as many smaller ones as you do larger ones. So it's really easy to use these in 3s because you would use 1 large and 2 small on your project. And it just creates that nice balance. I think this one will go right up here. So it kind of creates like a little triangle. And the outside of that card is finished. Now we're going to do something on the inside. It's kind of plain on the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp off the edge using a lighter version. So we'll stamp off the ink first on our grid paper and then stamp off the edge of that second white panel on the inside. This will make the inside of our card just as pretty as the outside, almost. So we'll bring our plant pot back in and our cinnamon cider first. You're going to get a very light image. So we'll stamp off once on our grid paper and then stamp again down here in the corner. So that way the bottom and the right side of our plant pot go off the edge of our basic white. And we'll do the same thing with the vine that we use. That way it mimics the outside. Again, stamp it off once on your grid paper. And then you will still see the plant pot through the green, and that's okay. It's just a really soft look there. This one came out a bit darker, but that's okay. It still is really pretty. And it just gives you a little bit of bringing the outside of the card in, and I like to do that. And now we'll just adhere that to our remaining cinnamon cider and then adhere that inside our card. And there we have our first card finished. So what do you think? Do you like that hanging macrame basket? I think it's really pretty. Okay, so we'll set this aside and we will move on to our second card. I tried to do really different styles for all three cards. The first one, I was saying, this reminds me of, like, if you were to walk in a city and you look up and you see this hanging down on an apartment balcony. This one, though, reminds me of like a farmhouse look with the gray, but it also reminds me of when we went to Greece because of all of the really light gray and white stones. So this will be the second one, and we're creating some fake shelves on this one. And I think it has more of a farmhouse feel to it, kind of an industrial look as well. Now with this one, I wanted to use completely different colors. I did not want the same color scheme on any of these. Sometimes I do use the same color scheme, but for this one I wanted 3 totally different cards so that you could see all the variety that you can get from this bundle. So we're starting with this is kind of like a stone wall, and this is from that same designer series paper. So we'll pull in a card kit. Again, this is how your card kits come. This would not already be cut for you. I will just give you the black for that. But when I was playing around, I cut a few extras. I'm going to put these black dots right back in here so that way I don't lose them for this card. So with this one, we'll start with our card base. So this piece of stone is just going to go down there. If you don't have this designer series paper, you could really use anything that looks like a stone wall. You could do anything that even looks just like a wall in your house. If you have our brick and mortar embossing folder, that would work great as well. This piece of designer series paper is just 4 by 5 1/4. It's one of my favorite Love It, Chop It dimensions. And it's going to go on a regular A2 card base. as I said at the beginning, this is a tent fold card. So my piece of cardstock started at 4 1/4 by 11. But you could do just a side fold and use a regular 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 sheet as well. So it's just a half a sheet of cardstock folded in half. And now we have that cement wall there, that garden wall or patio wall. Okay, so we'll do 2 quick shelves. These are so easy to make. These are just 1/2 inch by 2 1/2 inches. Now I'm not going to glue them down yet, or at least not both of them yet, because I want to make sure that I have room for both of my plants. So I'm going to start by working my way from the bottom up. I'm going to put my first shelf about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. Okay, so that's just going to be stuck down with flat adhesive. Okay, and this piece right here is one that I already die cut. It's a really fun shape from those dies. It has this slit here in the top, and that's so that you can slide your plant pot down in. So this holds the round plant pot. Let's go ahead and stamp our plant pots and our plants now. So I'll set this aside. And your card kit includes these pieces of designer series, not designer series paper, cardstock. But you could use any colors you wanted. So if you don't have Calypso Coral and you don't have Misty Moonlight, you could use whatever you wanted for cardstock colors. We just want to keep that tone-on-tone look. But I wanted to do something that was a little bit brighter to give it a pop of color. So I pulled in Calypso Coral, and then the Misty Moonlight I thought looked nice with the gray. And the same idea for the plants. Use whatever greens you have. I just happen to like the way these 2 colors looked with these cardstocks. So I'm doing all tone on tone, so I'm using those 4 inks as well. Okay, we'll start with our plant pots. And the blue one is fun. On the last card, I used just the oval plant pot by itself. I didn't use that special plant stand, but for this one, I did want to pull in that plant stand. Just wanted to give you some variety there. And then we'll do soft succulent. Pretty sure this is my favorite green right now. And finally, we'll do the last one that has the large leaves with evening evergreen. You don't have to do tone on tone. You could do basic white cardstock and just use colored inks, but I did like the tone on tone look for this. You'll be able to see on the last card though, what these look like when we stamp them on basic white. All right, so now that we have these all stamped, we'll go ahead and die cut those. So I'll pull these over to my other table and get them die cut, and that will give you a chance to also finish stamping your pots and plants and die cut those as well. And I'm just cleaning these quickly before I move on because I know that I'll be using a few of these on our last card. I want to make sure they're nice and clean. We're using different colors, of course. Okay. So go ahead and finish up your stamping and die cutting, and I will be right back with these. What's everybody doing on this snowy day? I know some of you are school employees, so some of you have a snow day. I'm excited for you. The roads here were really not great, but I think as long as you took your time and didn't try to go too fast, you'd be fine. I didn't have any problems coming in. So just if you have to go somewhere, take it easy and just be mindful of the people around you. That seemed to be the biggest challenge this morning was other people. And again, if you don't have the dies, you could fussy cut these, but look at how that cuts in between. Isn't that cute? And then of course the vine that we did before. Oh, you finished your shawl. Oh, I bet it came out beautiful, Gail. That was such a pretty color too. I loved it. And how is Miss Hazy doing this morning? She's been hyper. Hi, Tracy. Good morning. How are you? I haven't seen you for ages. I get to see you in another week, though, I think. Okay, so we have all of our plant pots, all of our plants cut now, so we can go ahead and we can start assembling them here on our card front. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to nestle this oval plant pot down in this little slot in the plant pot holder. So it's like this little plant stand, and it just holds it right in place. How cute is that, right? Okay, so now I want to put this over the front of my plant pot. So I'm just going to kind of hold it in place like that, the way that I want it. And I'll use that same technique that I did on the first card. I'm just going to hold it in place, flip it over, and I'll put my dimensionals right on the back. That way it holds those pieces together the way that I want them, but it will also work as our adhesive to put it on our card front. It will hold that plant stand right in place as well. We'll add a little drop of glue, liquid glue, just to the bottom to hold it down against our shelf. So the first thing I'll do is pull off my backings. And then I'll add a tiny, tiny drop of glue. I'll probably do one on each one of those little spokes, the bottom there. I don't want it to squish out. I just want it to tack that down. And I'm going to put it over toward the left side of the shelf. So it's not centered, it's over to the left. Right about there. And I'm pressing that bottom down so that way it sticks to the shelf. That will protect it as well when you're putting it in the envelope. You don't want that plant stand getting caught on your envelope and ripping the card. Okay, so we have that all stuck down. Now we'll put this plant here in our plant pot. And again, we'll do the same thing. Put it in place, flip it over, add a dimensional to hold it on there. Now I'm also going to put dimensionals on 2 of these big leaves here. You could use the mini dimensionals as well, but these are pretty big leaves, so I can get away with the big ones. Okay, so we have to add our second shelf here. Now I want to make sure that I'm leaving some space there for our sentiment. This is going to go, I want to make sure we have room for this big plant. So I think that I'll probably put my shelf just a little bit above that line of cement blocks there. Well, since I'm using gray granite, maybe they're granite, maybe they're stones, not sure. Just like the color and like the look. So we'll add that second shelf and now put our plant on with dimensionals. Oh, I've already got green all over all of my fingers. So pretty. Must be my favorite color, green. Okay, so now we'll add our sentiment on here. Now this one is kind of scary. We're stamping right on our designer series paper. I didn't want to do it before I started because I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of room for my plant pots on there. If you don't want to stamp directly on your card, you could always stamp on a piece of cardstock or a label and put that on there. I've got to grab my gray granite. Oh, not my gray granite, my tuxedo black. So this is going to be in tuxedo black memento ink, so it will match our little enamel dots, our little matte dots, as well as our plant stand. You could also stamp on vellum and add the vellum somehow there if you don't want to cover up the stone wall, but I think you should try it though. Try stamping directly on your card on those stones. It's so cute. And there we are, a little note with the biggest thanks. All we have to do now is add our little classic matte dots. These are safely back in my package, so I know right where they are. We'll add those with the Take Your Pick tool. And these remind me of like the big industrial bolts that you would need to place or to attach those shelves to a stone wall. It reminds me of the farmhouse look, so I just like that. There. And we have our note card. This one is plain on the inside, but you could add something in there if you wanted, but I'm going to keep it just simple with a blank inside. So we have our second card for the class finished. Really a different look from the first one. We have one more. This one is a really tropical look. So this one is actually the back side of that gray stone paper that we had before. You might have seen it when I flipped it over to add my adhesive. It's just a really tropical print there. And we're using the macrame embossing folder there. And I'm going to pull in my blending brush and add a little bit of crumb cake on top of that crumb cake ink. So that way what it does is it just adds a little bit of color and it really brings out that pattern in the embossing folder. If you get your card kit from me, yours will already be embossed. So if you don't have the macrame folder, don't worry about it. It will come already embossed for you. If you are creating your own kits at home and you don't have that, you don't have to emboss it at all. Or you could substitute a different embossing folder. Something really subtle that's not going to compete with that busy background is what I would recommend. Okay. All right. So first I'm going to assemble my card base. So we'll go ahead and just use flat adhesive and we'll put our designer paper down on our card base. So this one is a tent fold, but it's horizontal. Okay, now before we put our middle part on, we are going to add that crumb cake ink to our embossed cardstock panel. So I've already done my embossing, and I did put that in the directions and the cutting directions, so you had the measurement for this, and I told you that you would be embossing it. So if you may have already done that. This piece is 3 5/8 by 2 5/8. And the white mat, I'm sorry, yes, 2 5/8. And this is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So when we put that on, remember that little border that we had around our sentiment on the first card? We're going to have that same really narrow border around this one. So let me grab my blending brush and our crumb cake ink. If you don't have blending brushes, you can always use a sponge or a sponge dauber. You could even use a cotton ball if you don't have them, any of those tools. But I like these blending brushes. You can use these for a lot of different techniques. And this is just a really easy one. And I'm actually pressing it right down onto my ink pad. So you can see I'm picking up the ink there. And then I'm going to use a very light touch, so that way I can hopefully get just the raised image. And you'll be able to see, I'll try to do like half of it first, so that way you can see the difference between the two. Oh, see how it picked up a lot right there? It really brings out that embossing. I think it gives it more of an aged tropical look. This reminds me of something that you would see if you went to Hawaii or any of the, like a tropical resort. As you can see, there's really, it's subtle, but there's really a difference. And I think that it just adds that little extra bit to your card. I like to use circular motions as well, so that way you don't get any harsh stripes. There. I think I've added more on this one than I did on my first one, but I like it still. Okay. So we've added some texture there, and now we can just glue this down with flat adhesive to that narrow mat. As I was making this, it reminded me of the the team meeting projects, and I have it coming up as a class as well. So these were the team meeting projects for January for those that were on my team. And one of them I modeled exactly after one of the team meeting projects. So I'm going to show those to you. So if you already have the Plentiful Plants, or if you like the other one better that I show you in just a minute, you'll have a choice there of the two. But you could do really similar cards using those two. It's a new one from our spring mini catalog called Cactus Cuties. All right, so this will go right in the center. Now we're ready to do some stamping here. So I have a 1/2 inch piece. This is 1 inch by, goodness, 1 by 3, but you'll want to use whatever you are using for a sentiment. So measure your sentiment, make sure that you have enough there. And if it extends past here, that would be fine too. I think that would look really cute to kind of break it up. Now I'm going to tear one end of it, and I'm going to tear it a little bit at an angle. So that way we have, again, that aged look. So I have that little tear there before I stamp. That way I know I'm not tearing into my sentiment. And I'm going to add To a Dear Friend. This will be with Garden Green. Where is my Garden Green? There it is. So the sentiment and the plant are Garden Green today. I want to leave a little bit of a tail over on the right-hand side so that I can tuck it behind my plant pot. And I won't adhere that just yet. I'll wait until I get my plant pot stamped and cut. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll stamp our plant on a scrap of basic white, and I'll also be able to stamp my plant pot. So this is one where I said it really doesn't matter what color you have. If you don't have Bumblebee yet, put a different color plant pot there. But I'm going to be using Bumblebee for this one because I wanted something that would brighten it up a bit, but not too bright. I wanted to keep that aged tropical look. So we'll use our, let's see, got to get a little bit more of that blue off. And then we'll pull back that large leaf stamp and use Garden Green this time. You can see the difference with this card. You can see that when we use the tone on tone, it really gives you a lush look, but when you use the green ink on the white, it gives you more of a detailed look. So you can get lots of different looks depending on what you're stamping on for cardstock. So now I'll pull this over to my die cut machine. I'll die cut those and be right back with you. All right, so I'm going to set the plant aside for just a minute, and I'm going to show you how we're going to put our sentiment and our plant pot on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive on my plant pot on the back side, but I'm only going to put it over here on the right. That way I can slide my sentiment in after I have my plant pot adhered on there. So you can see I just put it over on the right-hand side, and I'm going to put it so that this almost looks like a shelf or a windowsill. And we'll just put it in slightly from the right-hand side there. And now I'll take my sentiment and I'm going to tuck this in right behind my plant pot there. And see how I can stick that down now? So we'll add a little bit of adhesive. Again, this is just flat adhesive. This is a flat note card. It has lots of layers, but it's fairly flat. I've been mindful lately of how many dimensionals and how many layers I use now that I've been mailing more. So I'm trying to be mindful of that for you as well. Okay, so we'll tuck that in behind the plant pot, and then making sure that we can see that torn edge and just press it down to adhere. And then we'll be able to tuck our plant down as well. It has kind of like a little edge there. You can cut that off or you can tuck it down in. We'll just tuck it today. But I'm going to put some adhesive here on my leaves, just a little bit. So that way, once I tuck it down in, I can just press on the leaves to adhere it down. And I like that this one extends beyond that linear mat. Just kind of breaks it up a little bit. And we're ready to add our last embellishment. This one uses those matte dots again from the spring catalog. Again, using that rule of threes. We'll do a larger one down here in the corner. And then the two smaller ones will just be in a little line up here at the top. You could even put them around here just randomly. And this one is blank inside as well. So it's just a friendship card, just like a hello. And so we have our third card of today's class finished. 3 really different looks, all from the same bundle. And if you just joined us here in the middle of the class, or if you came in late, I have a class offer. So if you've already heard this, you get to hear it again. Lucky you. But I am going to post a host code link at the top of this event. I've had people ask if they can buy just the card kits and not everything to make it. But at the same time, we have Celebration going, and I want to make sure that you're able to get all of the things that you want from Celebration as well. So I'm offering 3 card kits as my free gift to you. So the 3 card kits and a written PDF of this class when you place an order of $35 or more using the host code that I'm going to post at the top of this event. If your order is $35 or more, you get the 3 card kits and the PDF. If your order is $50 or more, you get the card kits, the PDF, and you get a full package of the matte dots that I included today. And that's going to be my month-long gift, no matter if you use the host code or not with a $50 order. But you also get a free Celebration choice with a $50 order as well. One thing to remember is that the Plentiful Plants stamp set and the DSP that I used in today's class are both on the low inventory list. So if you are looking to add that to your order, I wouldn't wait, because that one, I'm not sure if it's carrying over, but they are definitely both on the low inventory list as of this morning. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad you had fun. Good. I hope you were able to stamp along with me. And if you didn't stamp with me, I hope you'll go back and watch the replay and create some cards on your own. please share your cards too. You can post in this event group. I would love to see your cards, whether you use the same Plentiful Plants and Designer Series paper, or even if you use your own. I want to see what you made. Everybody wants to see it. All right, take care, everybody. And if you are out there today, drive safely. Stay home and have a cup of coffee instead and make some cards. Okay, take care and happy 2022. Thanks. Bye-bye.